What is up, guys? Now, reacting to a Walking Dead video here. I absolutely love this game. I've replayed Walking Dead. Well, I replayed season 2 and season 4 because they're my favorite ones at least a couple times because the Walking Dead is just an amazing game. But today, we're reacting to a video titled "We Don't Talk About Jane." Now, Jane is one of those characters in the series that I think 95% of the fan base hates, to be honest, and for obvious reasons and for good reasons. But let's get into Jane because she is a complex character, so let's react to this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Thank you for watching.
Nobody can ignore Jane. Half of the fan base despises everything about her, while the other half sees her as the ultimate survivor. But
Well, okay. Yeah, if you're talking about surviving, but like her person, I mean, no, let's let the video play. I don't know. I feel like most of the, maybe not most of the fan base, but that's the impression I got. But let's get into it.
rather than focus on opinions, I want to break Jane down systemically, from who she is to who she becomes, judging her actions in context to determine whether she's truly selfish and cruel, or perhaps just a misunderstood, deeply lonely person. So without further ado, let's uncover who Jane really is. Coming out the gate swinging, I want to start this essay by saying Jane is a deeply broken person, no matter how you feel about her. She presents herself as a hardened survivor, a lone wolf who will cut down anyone that threatens her chances of making it. But this is just an act. We see glimpses of her real self when she discusses her sister. Though she left her behind after trying to keep her alive, Jane is clearly remorseful, constantly trying to justify the decision, almost as if she's still trying to convince herself it was right. She opens up about this to Clementine, because much like Kenny sees Duck in her, Jane sees a version of her sister that might survive, but with everyone else, she almost
That's a good bar right there. Yeah.
Exclusively focuses on their flaws. Any sign of weakness is seen as a fatal flaw, grounds for abandonment. This matters because beneath her calculated exterior, Jane is profoundly lonely. She opens up too quickly and craves connection, something we see as soon as she leaves house. She seeks instant intimacy, sleeping with Luke not out of love, but a hunger for warmth she rarely admits. Her stoic persona is a mask. Behind it is someone far more fragile than she lets on. And this leads us to a crucial realization. Jane isn't just lonely, she's untrustworthy. She constantly preaches that people who make mistakes or hesitate don't deserve to survive, but she fits that mold herself. She's unpredictable, always leaving and returning, driven by a need for connection that she denies herself. So far, we can conclude that Jane is broken, but what often gets overlooked is her manipulative nature. Early on, she emotionally manipulates Troy before killing him. She has a disturbingly precise understanding of how people think, and she weaponizes it.
Yeah, I can't lie, that scene with Troy, peak, man. I can't lie, like, I don't know. It's partly funny. Like, if you guys remember that scene, she's like, "Yo, Troy, just relax, just relax." Troy's like, "Yo, all right, Jane." Like, bow, knocks him down, takes his gun. It was a badass scene, guys. It was badass. So come on.
We see this again in her treatment of Kenny, where she targets his attachment to AJ to deliberately break him. And if you think that manipulation stops with Clementine, think again. While her confessions to Clem may seem heartfelt, they also serve a purpose: to sway Clem emotionally to her side. Right after talking about her sister, she argues that Sarah should be left behind. Jane has a pattern of tunnel visioning people's flaws, flaws. She sees emotional attachments as liabilities even though she longs for them herself. It's baffling to me that more people haven't noticed how she zeroes in on Sarah's weaknesses while ignoring her humanity and importance to others. Again, she does the same to Kenny, focusing on his volatility while completely missing the point that Clementine knows his flaws but values him regardless. Jane simply can't handle disagreement. When challenged, she resorts to extreme measures to prove her point and show others who people really are. And that leads to the most important question of the season. Who is fit to raise AJ? Well, not Jane. Even if I don't believe she's entirely evil, her history, abandoning anyone she deems a burden, manipulating Kenny using the baby, makes it clear that she's not right for that role. The House ending reinforces this. She begs you to turn away an entire family, including a child, for the simple crime of existing. Even in smaller moments, Jane, like much of
I'm gonna let it play. I'm gonna stop talking.
The group shows a lack of urgency or understanding when it comes to securing supplies for AJ. When Arvo leads them to an abandoned shack with nothing suitable for a baby, Jane doesn't push to solve the problem, unlike Kenny, who immediately takes action by trying to repair the car. She fades into the background, more focused on opposing him than helping. As The Walking Dead increasingly emphasizes the importance of community, Jane's ideology, a solo survivalist, becomes obsolete. It was always on borrowed time. To wrap up this chapter, no, I don't believe Jane is intentionally bad. She's as wounded, impulsive, and emotionally stunted as anyone else in that world, but it's her refusal to admit fault or change that makes her dangerous. While Kenny is deeply flawed, he still protects those society would call burdens. That makes him a better choice for AJ despite everything. But now that we've broken all this down, I want to shift gears into something more important. Was Jane...
Alright guys, let's pause here a sec. Was Jane ever right? No, it's been quite a bit since I played the game. I want you guys to comment down below at this point in the video as well. I want you guys to comment right now, was Jane ever right? Because I'm trying to think. You know what it is? With Jane's ideology, there are certain points where you just have to leave someone. Like, for instance, if you remember Sarah, that, the brown girl, right? Sarah, when she was in the cabin, right? And she was in the cabin? Is that the right word for it? She was in the caravan, I think. When she was in the caravan and the zombies were about to come in and she's telling Clem to leave her. That's one moment where Jane was probably right because Sarah was just broken. I know you can lift Sarah out if you keep trying. I know you can do that, but in that situation, the best choice would probably, couldn't get my words out there, would probably be to leave her, right? So I guess you could say Jane's right there. And I think in certain cases, right, I think Jane, I guess her mindset does kind of work. The only problem is she's not that she's not loyal to anyone, but again, it's like you said, she just isolates herself. So it's like, especially in a zombie apocalypse, you need people who are probably going to risk their life for you, or at least willing to do that, or at least willing to do the hard jobs, where she's more like a, look, I'm gonna be with you, but if it gets tough, I'm saving myself first. So it's like, she's not, overall, she just doesn't seem like the best person to walk around with. But in terms of her being right, I can't think off the top of my head. I can only think of that Sarah one straight away, but you guys let me know what you think.
When viewed within the timeline of the Walking Dead universe, Jane's ideology emerges as a direct product of her experiences. The early communities Clementine encounters, particularly Carver's camp at House, highlights humanity at its worst. Dictators rise swiftly when power becomes available, and survival often rewards cruelty. In this brutal climate, Jane's isolationist philosophy doesn't just make sense, it sounds reasonable. But Hindsight changes everything. By the end of season 2, the player knows something Jane doesn't. Kenny's ending leads to a safe, stable community for Clementine. Jane, on the other hand, insists on turning away the innocent to preserve a closed-off tribal setup at House, where only 2 people are keeping things afloat. That kind of system is unsustainable. One bite, one accident, and it all falls apart. This is precisely why Telltale wastes no time revealing Jane's most irredeemable decision, ending her own life to avoid raising another child in a broken world. It's not just tragic, it's the final proof of her philosophy's failure. Clementine is left with no one and nothing at House, and is quickly forced to leave. What she finds outside, though, is striking. Multiple thriving communities, from Prescott to the New Frontier, and eventually Erickson's school. The world is slowly rebuilding. There is hope. There are systems and structures that work. And that's what makes Jane's worldview completely collapse.
Yeah, and that whole scene with Jane where you find her in the hotel room, because my first play around, I obviously picked Kenny, right? But I did it again and I picked Jane just to see what would happen. And then obviously I played season 3, and obviously when you pick Jane, it carries over, right? And when I seen what Jane did, I was like, yeah, this is just, the game's telling you it was just the wrong choice. Like, the most selfish thing she could have done is just leave, convince Clem, do all that stuff she did to Clem as a kid, right? Was manipulate a kid is what she did. And then after all that, just to delete yourself. I know you can't say it, you have to say that on YouTube, but just to delete yourself, right? Because you had a kid. But the point is, for her to do something like that, just to leave Clem by herself, it's just the ultimate proof how selfish Jane really was. And it's also why she's such a well-written character as well. I think season 3 showing that, I think, was really a good ending to a character in terms of just from a writing aspect, but in terms of in-game, and obviously it's horrible. Clem was just left by herself. But yeah.
She drives everyone away, and after forcing Clementine to sacrifice the last remnant of Lee, she not only stunts her growth, but also isolates her from the safety and structure thriving communities can provide. Jane traps Clementine in a cycle of self-reliance, a survivalist mindset that keeps her from seeking genuine connection and stability, all while Jane herself remains oblivious or perhaps indifferent. But when the Garcias eventually took over the New Frontier and Clementine found a home at Erickson's, it proved that a safe community wasn't just a dream, it was always something worth fighting for, not abandoning. Everything Jane stood for, her distrust, her self-reliance, her belief that groups inevitably turn evil, becomes obsolete in the face of what Clementine later discovers. Jane wasn't just wrong, she was outdated, a relic of the apocalypse's earliest days, too broken and mistrustful to evolve with the world. Her tunnel vision, her worst trait, left her blind to the good in others, and in turn to her own redemption.
Yeah, because if you look at Jane, she just like, it's kind of sad that she just basically pushed people away before they could do anything to her, before, because obviously because of what happened to her sister, she's just afraid to make connections now. So it's, you know, if you look at a character like that, it's really sad. You know, again, it speaks to how well written her character is in the Walking Dead series for such a character to be remembered after. Because if you think about all the characters in Walking Dead, hers is definitely one of the most memorable characters, whether you hate her or if you understand her, right? I don't know if there's anyone that actually loves her, but I think if you hate her or at least understand, well, might be some people actually, but whether you hate her or you understand her, I think she's a very well-written character. Kenny's another one as well, which is probably perfect. It's probably perfect that they were fighting in the end scene in season 2, right? But there's very few characters that are written as good as her, you know? Obviously Lee, you know, there's a couple other ones, obviously, but yeah, she's a well-written character and it's deep. But for me, that's why season 2 is the best season for me personally. I just think season 4 is close, but
Jane wasn't a villain, but she wasn't a hero either. She was a lonely, emotionally distant survivor, shaped by trauma and unable to imagine a world beyond it. In the end, she didn't lack intelligence or skill, she lacked empathy. And that's what ultimately isolated her, not just from Clementine, but from the future itself. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Well, this is an amazing video. This will be linked down below. I mean, yeah, if you guys want more of these, let me know, because I love Walking Dead. Obsessed with the game. We need a season 5. I mean, change the books first. Don't go off the books, because if you guys have read the books, I mean, awful. But yeah, we need a season 5. Let's read some comments. So let's read one or two. Let's see. I need to believe that Jane losing her sister during the apocalypse ultimately broke her humanity and empathy for others. She was very cruel to Kenny and manipulated Clem to be very unsympathetic, selfish, and be a lone wolf survivor. Yeah. Again, it goes back to her sister. What happened to her sister? It's like, and I can understand. You know what it is? I can understand Jane, because I've been there. I kind of been there where you kind of, you isolate yourself, and yeah, she left a baby in a freezing car. Yeah, that scene is insane, because it just shows how, just to prove a point, she doesn't think about, like, again, like, tunnel vision is the perfect word. It's like she doesn't even think, because let's say if Telltale had gone down the route of AJ dying and a zombie grabs it, which would have been crazy thing to put in a game, but let's say a zombie grabs AJ. What happens then? A kid dies because you wanted to prove a point. Let me know what you think about the video. Let me know, hey, if you want more Walking Dead content, please, because I love Walking Dead. But yeah, I'll leave the link to his channel down below. Thanks for watching.